Let's take an audience question from Demarcus Robinson. How do the Knicks effectively fold Amari into the fold? He's a delicious pastry. Melo has been otherworldly during April.
This makes this makes the Knicks sound so fat. It makes them sound like Jabba the Hutt.
Just go right in
Oh
here.
man, it's like when Bender became a human in Futurama and just was such a hedonist that he just became gigantic and had
Hedonism
flabs
bot.
upon flabs. He did. Ooh, delightful. Anyway, that's a delightful question. I don't know if they do in Amari's current incarnation. He's not healthy, and if he's not healthy, he's not that good for them. And I feel like when people say they should bring him off the bench, that's another way of saying he's hurting them and it's politically tricky. And we don't quite know how to deal with that because he makes over $100 million. So I think that's the best, worst option. But I mean, barely playing him might be a better one at this point if he's hurt.
Yeah, I tend to agree, specifically because Carmelo Anthony is such a monster when he's playing the four. And you really
Yeah.
can't play him and you can't. It's really hard to play Carmelo and Amari at the same time, defensively if Chandler isn't on the court. But if you play Melo at the four, move Amari to the five, that sounds like a devastating offensive lineup. But I can't imagine them ever getting a stop. And what's so great about Melo at the four is that his defensive range is less exposed. The risk there is that he won't run around screens, that he won't close out hard. But when he's battling down low, he can use his strength. He's a big dude, pure power forward size, and that is something he's more comfortable with, and that he will really expend effort in. And you're getting him down by the block where he's going to be motivated to rebound.
I mean, and I completely agree. I've long complained about Carmelo Anthony, but it is undeniable that he has been a revelation at the power forward spot. It makes me wonder, has his career sort of been squandered? Why did we have this guy who is 6'8", 6', 6'8", 6'9" in shoes, 6'7", I believe, 6'7" or 6'6" in socks, and he's just big. Why did we have him playing above the perimeter? Why did we do that?
I love
Are you
how
laughing at my
fixated you
nerdy
are
distinctions?
on size between shoes
His
and not.
wingspan,
Hey,
I
let's
believe,
just
is
say
an over
Carmelo
7 foot
is six
wingspan.
eight. He's Carmelo. Let's just say he has acceptable power forward size. He's bigger than Paul Millsap, obviously, um, and
Yeah.
probably not as athletic though. But that's a little beside the point. I think what you saw was that in Denver, George Karl basically played him as a in between forward. Like he would give him a lot of block touches. He would let him run to open shots in transition. And I think that's kind of what's so great about what we're seeing Melo do now is that he's one shooting the crap out of the ball and like okay, if he's gonna hit a ton of threes, then you're really in trouble. But
Yeah.
you're seeing him, get flex cuts for 15 footers. You're seeing him get ISOs in his comfort zone, which is a decent play, depending on the matchup. And you're also seeing him run that pick and roll with Tyson Chandler, where Tyson Chandler will screen for him and they'll space it out with shooters. And so I think Woodson has done a really nice job of creating a system where Carmelo is really only doing things he's comfortable with. And Carmelo has done a nice job of not being a pouty brat and actually playing hard.
That's a good
Just saying,
flex
like
on Melo's part.
we have to, yeah, we have to at least acknowledge that this was all it's somewhat possible previously. He just didn't do it.
Probably. I mean, I've long. I don't like it because it makes me sound like an old, cantankerous, white, angry sports writer. I usually don't care about character issues at all, but one of my concerns when the Knicks traded so much for Carmelo Anthony is he often gets himself into trouble doing the dumbest things. And that doesn't mean that he's a bad guy per se. It just means that he's fairly oblivious and was oblivious in a media market where it wasn't such a big deal. He does things like, I don't care if somebody smokes weed, but why are you walking into the airport with a backpack full of marijuana? Why are you doing that? I don't necessarily care. Perhaps I should about somebody putting a bounty on somebody over Twitter. In this case, a groupie. But don't you know people can see you, dude? I mean, that's a public medium. So I think that definitely played into some of my issues with Carmelo and how it might not work out in New York. And who knows? That could be he's going to be there a while. So who knows what could happen going forward.
Yeah, Melo. I mean, Melo will have opportunities to put his foot in his mouth, and I'm sure he'll do it. I saw him in Baltimore for a Goodman League. Like, it was like one of those summer league games, and afterwards we're in the bowels of this little college, and it's he's a Baltimore guy, and he's got the WB tattooed right there. And so they're interviewing him, how great is it for kids in Baltimore to be able to come out and see you? And, what do you think your success means to, like, the children, basically like the poor children of Baltimore? And he just leans back and he goes, like, total Clay Davis, like, shit. I'm a role model. And I was just like, oh, man, Carmelo, like, you really just saying that? Like, how are you so unaware? But it was at a time, like, it didn't really, no one really quoted him on it that way, and it never really worked. So, like, it didn't get a lot of play. But, like, can you imagine him, doing that during the NBA season, like, during this hot streak, like, him on camera, like, I have him on camera saying it. It's just like, man, sometimes that's like lack of awareness is really interesting for you as a viewer, as a reader, or whatever. But sometimes it's also like, yee.
I mean, we could always choose to love it. I've started to love it I've started to love it in terms of Bynum. I think in a different era, what Bynum does would just possibly annoy me, but now we're all about the novelty and we're all about rethinking things. So Bynum being rude or going against his coach's wishes, I love it. It's great. I have no problem with it. It is wildly entertaining. I don't care about Mike Brown. What's Mike Brown ever done for me? So, reframed, I think we could love that about Melo. Only if he keeps playing well, of course. But
yeah,
reframed, we could love that about Melo.
Yeah, as soon as he stops playing well, we'll again be able to castigate him for all the things that we love about him right now. Like how thrilling it is to watch him, fire up heat checks and just drill him. Yeah, Carmelo! Like, a week later, the playoffs when Boston is strangling, the Knicks, he's going to be like, or whoever, I guess it'll be Miami probably, but like some team is just hammering them. It's not going to be as pretty.